Ong. So Peter Ong's been hosting with us for the last couple of years, but you know what? He's just doing too much amazing stuff this year that there's just no chance. You're killing it, Peter. Peter is a wildlife photographer, an amazing champion for wildlife. And as Kitty just mentioned, you can't protect something unless you know about it, unless you understand it. And so what your work does so well is try and make sure that people do know about these animals, do know about them through amazing visuals. You take the most incredible shots of primates. And so I'm so excited to dive in with your project, Monyet, today. We're going to dive in. We're going to lend a voice. We've got some Jane Goodall roots and shoots action there on the bottom. Peter, thanks so much for joining us for the BioFest, man.
Hey, Jesse, good evening to you. Well, good morning to everyone who's tuning in from Asia. Thank you so much for having me on board again this year. I'm really glad to have this opportunity to share this project with everyone again and to basically update everyone on what's been happening here in Malaysia.
I can't wait. Well, I'll leave it to you, and I can't wait for a great Q&A at the end too.
Perfect. Okay, so let's get started. So just a little bit about me. I'm not just a wildlife photographer. I used to do musical theater as well back before the pandemic happened. Smack, that turned everything upside down. So during the pandemic, I was fortunate enough, of course, to be living in a place like Malaysia, which is one of the 17 mega biodiverse nations in the world. So which meant that I could just go out and, take lots of images of our weird and wonderful things. This project is supported by Roots and Shoots Malaysia, which is, of course, led by the iconic Dr. Jane Goodall. And how Project Monyet came about was essentially when Dr. Jane Goodall came to visit Malaysia back in 2017. Monyet in Malay means monkey, and it sort of all encompasses apes as well. So, of course, her question was to me back in 2017 when she first visited, was how are Malaysia's primates doing? And at that time, of course, being a musical theater person and a photographer, not really a wildlife photographer yet, but a photographer, I had no clue, really. So I thought, well, perhaps Google, the purveyor of all information, will have some answers, right? So off I go, Google. And in 2017, surprise, surprise, there wasn't even a comprehensive species count of the primates of Malaysia. That to me was rather shocking. This is 2017, and we don't even have a number of the amount of species we have in Malaysia. So after much digging, much digging, I managed to get some answers. But along the way, it really got me thinking, because you see, a lot of people have this conception of Malaysia, right? When I say Malaysia, people think, tropical country, great beaches, iconic architecture. We have some of the tallest buildings in the world, multicultural, multiracial, multilingual, history, great shopping, great food. But unfortunately, a lot of people, Malaysians included, are not aware that our jungles here are actually older than the Amazon. Our jungles are 130 million years old. We are considered one of the 17 most biodiverse nations on the planet. And we're up against, we're actually quite a small country. Our population is only 32 million people. And that's, fewer people than can be found in the city of Shanghai. So we are a very, very small nation. And we're up there with nations with big landmass like Indonesia, China, the United States, Mexico, Brazil. So our lands are really, really packed. And that's just terrestrial. We haven't even looked at, what's in our oceans. New discoveries, of course, being made all the time. Recently, it was discovered that an owl, a tiny little owl that was once considered extinct, has been rediscovered to be alive and well. Of course, because we have so few researchers in the field, we do not actually know how many of this owl is left in the wild, but it's good to know that there's at least one flittering around out there. However, while new discoveries are constantly being made, our unique and amazing wildlife is unfortunately also disappearing at the same time. So a quick introduction to our primates. We have 26 primate species as of this year. It used to be 25. And then we discovered that the banded langur is that we lumped up under the category of banded langur is actually two separate species, the Robinsons and the Raffles. So we have 26 species of primates as of this year. And out of this 26 species of primates, 2 are critically endangered, 11 endangered, and 3 data deficient. Data deficient meaning no studies being done at all. And that's really quite worrying for, a nation that's so biodiverse, right? It's 2022, and we, as a species, we have sent man to the moon, we have sent man to the out into outer space, and yet we still don't know what's on the very surface of our planet. So that to me is quite worrying. But let me take you around Malaysia for a bit and show you some of our wonderful primates. So this is a view of the city of Kuala Lumpur, the capital, where I am at the moment. As you can see, skyscrapers galore. However, at the back and in the foreground, you can see kind of mountains and forests. This is sunrise as the sun was breaking over the mountain ranges. So we have a lot of green in Malaysia, which is something a lot of people don't necessarily associate with our urban sprawl, because Kuala Lumpur is one of the most developed cities in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia. So it's amazing that we still have so much green patches around the city. And in these green patches, you find wonderful things like this white-thighed surili. Now, this white-thighed surili is rather strange because it is usually found up in the highlands of Malaysia. The mountains which you saw in the previous photo, they're usually found up there. However, there's a pocket, an isolated pocket of white-thighed surilis in the city itself, not too far from the Petronas Twin Towers. So why they are here, how they got here, nobody knows, because again, they are data deficient. Nobody's actually studying this population stuck in the city. So that's one of the things which my photography hopes to highlight, and it's something that I constantly talk about, the need for more wildlife researchers, especially in countries that are so mega biodiverse like Malaysia. We just don't have enough studies being done at all. And this is another one of our primate species. It's a southern pigtailed macaque. One of the interesting studies that was recently done, so this is one of the more common macaques that you can find in Malaysia, quite easy to see, is that they have been discovered to have a penchant for eating rats in plantations, which is actually a boon to plantation owners, especially palm oil plantation owners, because what we've been trying to do is to say that, I mean, Malaysia, I'm not going to run away from the fact, Malaysia is one of the world's largest exporters of palm oil, right? However, there has been a policy that was recently introduced to say that no more forests will be cut down to grow the plantations, right? So already with what we have, this is it, right? No more forests will be cut down to expand plantations. So what we are trying to do in Malaysia is to increase the efficiency of the current plantations. So one of the one of the research that was currently published, it was discovered that this particular macaque loves eating the rats in the plantations, and they have evolved to find these rats in the plantations. So there's an argument now being made that you do not need chemicals, pesticides, etc. to protect the crops. Let's look at biodiversity control as nature designed it, right? So introduce owls, introduce eagles, and of course these macaques into the plantations to do what they do and to keep the population, the pest population, under control. We are also blessed with amazing islands. Some of the most amazing beaches and oceans on the planet can be found in Malaysia. And of course, people flock there for the diving. Everyone loves to come to Malaysia to dive, but I always tell them, you know, don't just dive when you're on these islands. Go into the forests, because you'll find amazing things like this dusky leaf monkey. Now, this particular species of monkey is quite unique because it has golden colored offspring. They're also known as the golden babies because they're so adorable. However, they are currently endangered. There used to be a population of least concern just a couple of years back, but now they're actually endangered because of the illegal wildlife pet trade. We have a serious issue here in Malaysia with the illegal wildlife pet trade, not just locally, but also globally. It is incredible how much demand there is for wildlife as pets, right? So this particular species has literally been poached to endangerment because the baby is so cute. And you can find social media ads advertising these babies for sale. Unfortunately, a lot of these babies do not live to maturity because they always get fed the wrong foods, right? People always associate, oh, I've got a pet monkey, so they must like bananas. So let's give it lots of bananas. Let's give it lots of sweet fruit. However, it's a leaf monkey, so its diet basically consists of eating tree bark, raw fruit, and leaves, you know. So when they're fed bananas, apples and oranges aren't found in aren't grown naturally in Malaysia, and they're full of sugars. I mean, what basically happens is that this baby monkey, basically dies from poisoning. Right? It cannot digest or break down the sugars. Its stomach is made up of 4 chambers, exactly like a cow's, to break down food which is high in fiber. So when you give it a mushy, sugar-rich food like a banana, it's actually not good for it. So we have a huge problem, and that's what one of the issues that Project Monyet aims to tackle, is to raise awareness of the detriments of this illegal wildlife pet trade. Of course, no trip to Malaysia should be complete without a trip to Borneo. In Borneo, Malaysia, we have 2 territories, Sabah and Sarawak. And in Sarawak, you can find this Sabah as well. This is a beautiful monkey known as the proboscis monkey. In the local language, when you translate it, it's known as the Dutch monkey, because I guess when the Dutch invaders, colonialists first arrived on the shores, everyone thought, oh wow, it has the Dutch people have a big nose just like this monkey. So they fondly refer to this monkey as the Dutch monkey. It's a wonderful primate. It's known for its huge nose and also its huge pot belly. The males have huge pot bellies, and that the larger the pot belly, the sexier the male is. So yeah, different folks, different strokes. And of course, the orangutan, it's a wonderful thing to see a great ape in the wild, and nothing beats the experience of seeing an orangutan in the wild. I was very fortunate to be able to actually follow a researcher back in 2015 into Sabah, to trail rehabilitated and released orangutans. Now, people always assume that it's an easy thing, right? I'll just send this rescued orangutan into a rehabilitation program, and in a couple of years, it will be released back into the wild, easy peasy. Actually, that is not true. The orangutan is one of the most difficult apes to rehabilitate. Firstly, they are solitary creatures, right? So they're not social like chimpanzees or gorillas. They are solitary. They move around in the wild on their own. And the other reason why they're so endangered and their population numbers just don't seem to be able to bounce back up is because the female will only have one child every 8 years. The female will not reproduce until this child is fully independent and leaves. So that is a problem. I mean, humans reproduce at a lot faster rate than the orangutan. So this is a huge concern. The other concern, of course, is the illegal pet trade, the illegal wildlife pet trade. People still would like to own orangutans, especially baby orangutans, as pets. Back in 2019, before the pandemic shut everything down and shut down travel, there was a case reported in Indonesia, in Bali, at the Bali airport. A Russian tourist was arrested with a baby orangutan in his check-in luggage, and the baby orangutan was drunk. Presumably, he was given alcohol and passed out in the suitcase so that he could be transported back to Russia as a pet. So all these things are still going on. It is a huge global problem. The threats that our wildlife face. Anyway, back to seeing orangutans in the wild. I'd like to share with you this next video that I was fortunate enough to experience in the wild. So this is the orangutan female. Her name is Hope. She was rescued as a child, as a little baby orangutan from the illegal wildlife pet trade from the ports of Sabah, about to be shipped off. And she was one of the 2 females who were successfully rehabilitated, released into the wild, and she is one of 2 who have successfully mated in the wild as well. So this is her little baby Doris. Now, it is vital that this bond between mother and child is not interrupted at all, because the baby learns everything it needs to survive only from its mum. So very sadly, baby Doris did not live to maturity because mummy Hope was just not equipped raise a child because she was herself separated from her mum at a very, very early age. However, the good news is that she has been found to be carrying again, heavy with child. So we hope that round 2 she will have more experience and will be able to better care for her newborn. So yes, I highly recommend a trip into the jungles of Sabah if you're ever in Malaysia to experience watching an orangutan in the wild. It's really incredible. And back into the peninsula, one of the states in the peninsula that is hardly visited by tourists and locals alike is northern state of Perlis, which is bordering Thailand. It's a drive-through state. Everyone always just drives through it to get from Malaysia to Thailand. But I do highly recommend for people to stop over and explore the state because it has this wonderful primate called the stump-tailed macaque. This is another one of those weird primate populations that we know close to nothing about. In fact, we've only just started to do a number count because this population of stump-tailed macaques, they're usually found up north, right near the Himalayas, Nepal, northern India. However, there is this pocket population isolated in the state of Perlis. They do not cross over to Thailand and they do not come anywhere down south past this little area in Perlis. So nobody knows, I mean, how they got there, why they're there, how they're doing, talking when I was there trying to photograph them, talking to the villagers. This old gentleman was saying that, in his 70s, he was saying that they've always been there, even when he was a kid. In fact, a lot of traditions, performing traditions, puppet masks, with the red face were developed because the locals drew inspiration from this macaque. And of course, there's been no scientific paper done. So that's what I mean. I use these photos to try to encourage more youths, especially, to be more inquisitive, right? Ask questions and perhaps go into science and especially wildlife research, right? Malaysia needs it. We have so much biodiversity and so much still unstudied and undiscovered. So this is one of them, the stump-tailed macaque. And if you ever come to Malaysia, not many people do this. They don't really go up into our highlands. Most of them hang around in our cities and on our beaches and islands. But we have a central forest spine in the peninsula of highlands, and you have really incredible, unique or wildlife that can only be found near these highlands. One of them is this Agile Gibbon. Malaysia has 5 species of gibbon. A gibbon, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is an ape as well, like us. It's widely known as a lesser ape, which I always think is a bit of a misnomer because they are extremely intelligent and they are so much like us human beings because they do not live in big groups like the chimpanzees or even solitarily like the orangutan, right? They actually live in family units. So there's always daddy, mummy, baby, and an older juvenile. So they live in tight family units just like us. So the similarity to our way of life is very, very evident, and very little is actually known about our gibbons. There is research being done, but we could always do with more. All 5 gibbon species in Malaysia are endangered, and that is quite sad. They are also widely poached for the illegal wildlife pet trade. So this little Agile Gibbon was hanging off the tree. They never come down to the ground unless they have to, unless the tree cover the trees don't meet for them to brachiate. So they're one of the fastest movers in the trees. They're like flying ninjas. If you ever get the opportunity to watch them fly through the trees effortlessly, please take that opportunity up. This is a siamang. It's the largest gibbon species in the world, and it can only be found here in Malaysia, in the peninsula, and also in Sumatra, in Indonesia. Gibbons are another wonderful thing about gibbons, that they're actually endemic to this part of Asia, Southeast Asia and Eastern Asia. Nowhere else in the world has gibbons. And one thing that is wonderful about gibbons as well, apart from the fact that they live in family units, is that they sing. Our jungles reverberate with gibbon song, and that is one of the most incredible, magical experiences to experience in our jungles. So if you're ever out this way, please do consider trying to find a gibbon. So this is a baby siamang. It's a photograph that was recently taken up in Genting Highlands, which is on the Central Forest spine, and it's a very heartwarming photo because it's so rare to see a baby gibbon in the wild. In fact, it's really hard to see a gibbon in the wild, period, because they are so shy, incredibly shy, and they're so fast. They're quick movers, and they know how to camouflage when the need arises. So to be able to spot this wonderful baby siamang in the wild was such an amazing experience, and to know that it was doing well, its mummy is doing well, even though they live in a rather developed part of the highlands. They have adapted quite successfully to human presence and human activities in the highlands, so that is also quite encouraging. The other third species of gibbon that you can find here in the peninsula is the Lar Gibbon, or the white-handed gibbon. It is adorable. It's got this white ring around its face. It's got Michael Jackson gloves. It's really cute. But unfortunately, it is also highly poached and is now endangered because it is so cute. There are rehabilitation programs like those being done by the Gibbon Protection Society here in Malaysia to try to rehabilitate rescued gibbons from the pet trade. However, not all of them are able to be released because, again, they need to learn all these life skills from mum, and it's very hard to teach these life skills to these babies, to equip them for life in the forest. This is the sound of the Lar Gibbon in the wild. I'm not sure if you can hear it.
We sure can.
As you can see, you can't see it. You can only hear it, and that's the song of the gibbon, right? That's the song that you'll hear as they sing, as they call out. I'm sharing this video with you because I'm actually following this one lone gibbon. So this lone gibbon, and as I've said before, they live in family units, right? But the sad situation of this gibbon, whom I've named Solo, is that he lives in this green pocket of forest that is cut off on one side by a major mega highway and is surrounded on all other sides by a sprawling housing estate. So he has seen his family die off one by one, and now he's the last one left. So usually when you go into the forests of Malaysia, you will have you hear gibbon songs, right? So they'll sing and they'll call out to each other. But what's really heartbreaking about this particular scene, and I'll play it for you again, is that he's singing on his own and there's no more call back to him. And what's really sad as well is that when he goes, this forest will actually fall silent and will probably never hear a gibbon song ever again. So this is his last song, literally. Yep, so that's the song of the last gibbon here in Bukit Serdang, and this is an image of him that I managed to capture. I know it's you can't see him in the video. It's really tough to see a gibbon in the wild. It is super challenging because they're so arboreal. They hardly come down to the ground. The really wild ones never touch foot on the ground. So they get their water from nooks on the trees. So they have no reason to actually descend to the ground. So you actually have to crane your neck upwards all the time looking for them. So this is Solo, and he's the last of his kind in this little patch of forest in Kuala Lumpur. People have come to ask me, why is it that we can't take him out and relocate him, right? And I always explain to him that, explain to them that it's really difficult to relocate arboreal animals like gibbons, because firstly you can't physically catch them. There is just no way to catch them. You'll have to tranquilize them, but because they live so high up, there is a huge risk that when they are tranquilized, they will fall, and when they fall, it's either they fall to their deaths or they sustain serious injuries. So it's really difficult to translocate a wild gibbon. And they're also highly territorial, so you can't just pluck one out and reintroduce them. They're also choosy with their mates, so you can't just simply bring another female and put her in there and hope that they will hit it off. Like us, they will either swipe left or swipe right. So it's a challenge. It really is a huge challenge with our endangered gibbons. Another thing that you can do when you come to Malaysia is, of course, go to the coastal villages, not just the islands. We have wonderful little coastal villages, fishing villages, and around these fishing villages are the mangroves. The mangrove systems are so vital for climate control, because they store so much carbon in their roots, but unfortunately our mangroves have been cleared a lot for coal, to make charcoal. So people are actually looking into this and trying to preserve and rewild our mangrove systems. They're also vital because they provide homes not just for fish to breed, but also for primates like this Selangor silverleaf monkey. Now, this silverleaf monkey is really, really cute as well, because it has, as you can see, golden orangey babies, or even though mommy is a dark silver. So they're also highly poached for the illegal wildlife pet trade. In fact, as I was taking a photo of this particular baby, another baby was poached in front of my very eyes, which I managed to stop. And of course, the person who took it was a young girl, and she saw no harm of taking it, because she said, quote unquote, that her friends took some last week. So this is the state where we're at. Everyone's always saying, oh, it's just outreach and education, it's not that important. Well, I'm like, yes, it's very, very important. We are still at that stage, people, because obviously there are human beings who think that it's still okay to just take a baby out of its mom's arms because you think it's cute. So yes, we are still at that stage where education and outreach is vital. Education and outreach needs to be better funded. Education and outreach is important for the survival of the species. I cannot stress that enough. This Selangor silverleaf monkey is also one of those monkeys that were only recently discovered to be a separate species. They were acknowledged to be a separate species back in 2014. So everyone always asks me, like, why do you do this? Why do you go around taking photos? And why do you bother, right? It's just another monkey. Surely there are more important things to do. And this quote by Dr. Jane Goodall really, really struck a note with me, right? Only if we understand will we care. Only if we care will we help. And only if we help shall all be saved. And this is why I tell people, it's not just about saving the monkeys. It's also about saving their habitats, right? It is so vital that their habitats be saved, because in Peninsular Malaysia, if you look at this map, you can see the central forest spine, which runs down the middle of our land, right? The highlands, which provides 80% of our water, fresh drinking water, for over 20 million Malaysians. The central forest spine also holds 85% of our carbon stock. And to date, we have discovered over 14,000 plant species, 240 tree species, over 200 mammal species. We haven't even touched insects, reptiles, amphibians, birds, you name it. It's all in there. However, because it has been cleared due to overdevelopment, agriculture as well, we've had massive flash floods in December last year. We continue to have incredible floods, deadly floods this year as well. The climate change is really, really hitting Malaysia badly. The floods last year inundated so many of our towns. People lost everything, everything in their homes. So it's a huge problem that we're facing now. We're also witnessing extinctions in our forests. So our last Sumatran rhino passed away in 2019. Yeah, so we've effectively witnessed, uh, an extinction. And it's always something that I bring up. Everyone globally is looking at the rhinos in Africa, rightly so as well, because they're also endangered. But I also remind people that we also have rhinos here in Asia that are even more endangered. The last few Sumatran rhinos left in Sumatra are under huge threat. The Javan rhino is under huge threat. We have in Malaysia, we've lost the last Sumatran rhino in 2019, and if we don't get more attention, if we don't get more efforts to help with this issue, we will be witnessing massive extinctions in the wild pretty soon here in Asia. Our Malayan tiger, up till today, we have fewer than 150 left in our jungles. And that is a huge problem. No matter how much money we've been trying to throw at it to preserve them, poaching remains a huge problem. So it's people always say, "Oh, why aren't Malaysians doing more to protect the tiger?" We are desperately trying to protect the tiger, but there's so much international demand for the tiger. And not just for the tiger, for our pangolins, for our rhinos, for our primates. It is shocking to know that there are more tigers in captivity in the United States and they're left in the wild in the rest of the world. It's shocking, right? So something really needs to be done to tackle this international wildlife pet trade. It needs everybody's involvement. If not, we don't stand a chance. So this was reported in 2021, last year in March. The trade in Malaysia's Oriental magpie robins, nearly 27,000 birds were seized, all right, over the years at the ports. It's it's incredible because this bird used to be so easily spotted around Malaysia and Singapore. It's basically nearly wiped out of Singapore because of all the poaching. And now it's also facing a lot of threats, right? Because this wonderful bird, this Oriental magpie robin, is poached because of its singing. And that's not a small number of birds to be poached and sold off, right? So this is happening all the time, right? And this is another thing that I share with my viewers, that we have the choice to use the gift of our life to make the world a better place or not to bother. Another wonderful quote by Dr. Jane Goodall, right? And so that's what I tell people. So I've decided I will use my photography, even though I started off as a musical theater performer. I will use my photography to do what I can, because there's no time like the present. The time is now, and as I've said earlier, in the case of the Sumatran rhino, it's gone, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, it's the last one." I'm like, where was this outrage when we're down to the last 10, the last 20? And now people want to make noise that we've lost the last one. It's a bit late, So what I'm saying is that for our primates that are now endangered, critically endangered, even data deficient, we need action now, right? So this is what I encourage everyone to do. Lend your voice, engage in citizen science, support local communities, NGOs, encourage ecotourism. We need to empower everyone involved in this field. And just to show you what I have to go through on my DMs every day, every single day, I get messages in my inbox asking me, how much is a baby monkey? Where can I buy a baby monkey? What is the cutest baby monkey? Do you sell baby monkeys? Do you know anyone who sells baby monkeys? So to me, if I can just stop one person from buying a baby monkey, just one, it helps to break the cycle, at least for one baby monkey, right? So I highly encourage people to get more involved. Another quote by Dr. Jane: "The greatest danger to our future is apathy." And it is so true, because I keep coming across this every time. It's like, "Oh, it's just a monkey. It's just another tree. They're the last ones left." there are currently a lot more humans than there are orangutans left in the wild, right? So I encourage people to go out in Malaysia or in other mega biodiverse countries, engage in citizen science, right? Use apps like iNaturalist or Seek, contribute towards research, because in Malaysia we do not have enough researchers. So citizens, normal people like you and me, you don't have to be a scientist. You have a smartphone, and this phone can literally do wonders these days, right? Download these apps, take a photo, upload them, time and place, and if a researcher needs to access that data, they can. So you can play a vital part in conservation. You do not need to have a degree. Just be a bit more concerned and pick up your phone, not just to text or take a selfie from time to time. Lastly, I'd like to share with you a little project that I'm also working on with Roots and Shoots Malaysia called eco-eco.org, eko-eko.org. And it's essentially a project that we would like to share the biodiversity of the Asia Pacific region with the world. So we are working with wildlife and nature photographers across the Asia Pacific to highlight some of the wonderful things that you can find here in this region. We've got articles, we've got information, and we will be working also with other creative artists to also talk about the amazing biodiversity that can be found not just here in Malaysia, but also in the Asia Pacific region. And we hope that, to anyone listening, do come and visit us one of these days. You will be surprised at what you can actually discover here in the jungles of Southeast Asia. And lastly, I'd like to leave you with this quote by Dr. Jane Goodall: what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. So I hope that everyone here will decide to do something about the biodiversity loss that we are currently facing, not just here in Asia, but across the world. So, yep, that's me wrapped up. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook under Project Monyet. So thanks, Jesse. Back over to you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Again, your passion is absolutely palpable. What a spectacular group of photos. And again, you highlighted so many ways that people can take action from home. iNaturalist is something we brought up through many of our broadcasts. Everyone can help actual real citizen science take place just with their smartphone, which is such a special opportunity. And one of the things that we featured in a lot of our primate and wildlife stories is the idea that one thing that we can do from home, wherever we're tuning in from, is not share those photos. If you don't want baby monkeys to be taken from the wild, if you don't want people to poach them or have them in, poorly run tourism operations, shall we say, don't share those photos. Share photos of animals being treated correctly. Share photos of accredited zoos. Share photos of people that are engaging with wildlife from a respectful distance. And that really does go a long way to helping not incentivize these practices in Malaysia and around the globe. So I'm so glad you mentioned all that, Peter.
No, yeah, I think, we live in the day where, currently everything is for the gram, right? Everything's for the gram. But there are lines, and, and I know people love monkeys, people love primates because they're so like us. When you look into their eyes, their intelligence, their souls, they're so like us. So, of course, for the gram, you'd want your viewers to be entertained. You pick them up, you hold them, you feed them, but all that just encourages the wrong behavior. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, the kind of monkey that they're feeding, the macaques, the more you feed these macaques, the more vicious they get, and they terrorize local communities. And you don't do these macaques any favors, because once they start terrorizing the local communities, the city councils have to come out and put them down, cull them on a wide scale level because someone decided they were cute, or oh, these poor things. It's always these poor things. They have nothing to eat, so let me share my sandwich with them. But they don't need our sandwiches or our food. Nature provides for all.
There's our slogan for the program: keep your own sandwiches, enjoy them yourselves. You made them for yourself, might as well eat it. Peter, it's such a pleasure every time getting to chat with you. I have such a great time following your work. And again, you laid out all the ways people can keep in touch with the stuff that you're doing. I want to do a shout out to rootsandshoots.my as well. If you want to see Jane Goodall's incredible work and the Roots and Shoots team in Malaysia, check out that site. You have, of course, on Instagram, Facebook, Project Monyet, amazing stuff. I was just there a minute ago. Thank you for the BioFest shout out. And ecoeco.org. So everyone should head to all these places, keep the learning going. And Peter, we look very forward to having you for next year's festival, and in advance anytime you want. Come join us again.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Good to see you, and come visit us over here in Malaysia sometime soon.
My passport's right over there. I'll come get it and head to
all right, get your ticket now.
Thanks so much, man. Have a wonderful morning and see you soon.
Great. Stay safe. Take care.